You notice it in small moments first. A weather model tells you it will rain, even though the sky looks clear. A navigation system insists there's traffic, even though the road ahead looks empty. A simulation shows you what will happen, and you trust it more than what you're seeing. You hesitate, not because the model is perfect, but because it feels calmer than reality, clearer, cleaner, more confident. Reality feels noisy by comparison, uncertain, messy, and without noticing it, you defer. Not because reality disappeared, but because the simulation felt more reliable. This is the shift most people don't realize they've already made. A world where reality still exists, but no longer holds the final authority. For most of human history, reality ended arguments. You could disagree about meaning, about values, about interpretation. Still, you were anchored to something external. You could look again. You could point. You could say, that happened. Even when people argued fiercely, they argued about the same underlying world. That mattered more than we realized, because reality didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to be final. If a storm hit, it hit. If a building collapsed, it collapsed. If something failed, it failed, visibly. Reality interrupted belief, it forced correction. That's why trust didn't depend on certainty, it depended on reference. You didn't need to know everything. You needed to know there was something outside your interpretation that could push back. This is how disagreement stayed human, and this is the role reality quietly played for centuries. It was the last authority. That authority is changing, not because reality became weaker, but because simulations became stronger. AI systems don't guess reality anymore. They model it. Weather systems simulate atmospheric behavior. Traffic systems simulate flow before it happens. Economic systems simulate outcomes before decisions are made. Digital twins simulate entire environments in real time. These models aren't abstract. They are detailed, predictive, visually convincing, often clearer than reality itself. AI didn't replace reality, it replaced our reason for trusting it. Because simulations don't just show what is, they show what will be. And humans are wired to trust anticipation. You feel this when you check the model before looking outside. When you trust the render over the photograph. When you accept the simulation because it feels more stable than the world. This doesn't feel like deception, it feels like help. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because when a system consistently predicts correctly, questioning it feels irrational. Reality starts to look like noise. The simulation looks like signal. What's important here is why this feels so natural. Simulations don't just predict outcomes, they remove emotional friction. They don't hesitate, they don't contradict themselves. They don't carry the anxiety of being wrong. Reality does. Reality includes uncertainty, delay, contradiction, and doubt. Simulations compress all of that into a single, confident output. So when humans choose the model over the moment, it isn't because they've lost touch with reality. It's because the simulation feels calmer than experience. And once trust begins favoring calm over truth, accuracy stops being the deciding factor. Confidence does. That's when reality starts losing arguments it used to win automatically. This shift doesn't announce itself. No one tells you to stop trusting your senses. No one declares reality obsolete. It happens through repetition. The model is right again. The forecast holds, the prediction lands. Over time, trust moves, not consciously, not ideologically, practically. You stop asking, is this real? And start asking, what does the model say? This is where something subtle breaks, because trust is not neutral. Whatever you trust becomes your reference point. And once simulations become the reference, reality becomes secondary. You see this when people argue less with outcomes and more with data. When lived experience loses authority unless it aligns with the model. When something feels wrong, but the numbers say it's fine. You feel it personally the first time your own perception loses an argument with a system, not because you were wrong, but because the system sounded more confident than you did. This is where correction stops flowing from reality to belief. It starts flowing the other way. Reality is checked against the simulation, and when it doesn't match, reality feels suspect. A world like this still functions. People still work, still travel, still build, still decide. Nothing collapses. But something changes at a deeper level. You begin to notice it in how decisions feel. You don't argue with reality anymore. You verify it. You check the model again. You refresh the dashboard. You look for confirmation that what you're seeing is supposed to be happening. And when reality doesn't line up, you don't assume the model is wrong. You assume you are missing something. This is the quiet psychological reversal. Reality used to correct systems. Now systems correct reality. Not aggressively, not forcibly, casually. And once that becomes normal, trust no longer lives in the world itself. It lives in whatever can explain the world before it unfolds. Reality no longer interrupts us. It competes with models. If reality disagrees with the simulation, we hesitate. If the model disagrees with experience, we double-check experience. Not because we're weak, but because the simulation feels safer, clearer, predictable, defensible. Over time, real becomes optional. Not irrelevant, just no longer decisive. Institutions adapt quickly to this. They trust simulations over witnesses, models over memory, predictions over testimony. Not out of malice, but because simulations don't panic, contradict themselves or forget. Reality does. And once that comparison sets in, human perception quietly loses status. I didn't realize how much I relied on reality having the final word until simulations started winning arguments by default. That's the destabilization. Not fake worlds, not illusions, but a world where the most trusted version of reality is the one generated before anything actually happens. Reality doesn't disappear. It just stops being the authority we return to when we're unsure. If this made something in your own life click, that's the point. The most powerful simulations don't replace reality. They quietly replace our reason for trusting it. Tap like if this surfaced a shift you've already felt but couldn't quite name. Subscribe to become part of the Unlocked, where we explore how artificial intelligence quietly reshapes reality, trust, and what it means to decide what's real at all. And if someone you know still believes reality always speaks for itself, share this with them, because the most profound change isn't that machines can simulate the world. It's that we're starting to believe them before we believe our own eyes. Because the future isn't coming, it's already here.